Shobi here. Welcome to another look at a retro console. Yay! In the last one, I looked at the predecessor for the Super Nintendo, the NES. So today, I thought I'd have a look at what came after it instead. So today we'll be looking at the Nintendo 64. This is probably going to be a short video because I'm not best clued up on the Nintendo 64. It's not really a console I play a lot, so the Nintendo 64 was launched in September of 1996 in America and discontinued 6 years later in April of 2002, about the time the GameCube came out. Worldwide it sold 32 million, so I think that's about a half of the NES from the last video. However, for comparison, it sold 20 million in America, but only 5 in Japan. Of course, at the time, the PlayStation had just come out, and that was very popular in Japan, so that would have hit the N64 quite a lot. The best-selling game for the N64 is, unsurprisingly, Super Mario 64, which was a launch title. Only one other launch title, I believe that was Pilot Wings. 2 launch titles, that's not a lot. Here's the console itself. This is a special Pokemon one, which I think was made for Pokemon Stadium, I don't know. But this is the general shape of the console. It's pretty much flat, but it has the weird lump on the front. I gather Nintendo always made sure to have curved bits on the console so people wouldn't put stuff on them, like drinks or food, and spill it everywhere. The console came in a wide variety of colours. The standard one is a grey, similar to the cartridges, I think. It might be slightly darker, I forget. But it came in blue and yellow, red, green, see-through colours like purple and light blue and orange. One of the most famous variants of the N64 is, of course, the Pikachu version. I don't know what that came with. Maybe it came on its own. This one I know came with Pokemon Stadium, but this one I don't know. I think it might have just come on its own. I'm gonna have a look at this one because I know this one works. I haven't tested the other one yet. There's not a lot to the console. Cartridge goes in the top. It's very interesting because, of course, the games came on cartridges. Of course, at the time, both Sega and Sony, who had started making consoles with the PlayStation, were using optical discs for their games. Nintendo still used cartridges. I'm still not entirely sure why. I mean, they weren't cheaper to make. You couldn't put more stuff on them. I guess they don't have loading times or anything. I might need to look into that. The cartridge goes on the top, much like a Super Nintendo. We have 4 controllers. Ooh, that was quite big for the time. The power is connected into an absolutely huge gap in the back of the console. And also, you may notice, it uses the same cable as the Super Nintendo, so that was good. This one's pretty cool because when you turn it on, the Pikachu's cheeks light up. I will be showing you that later on, of course. We talked about games. They, of course, came in cardboard boxes again. We'll have a look at what's in one of these. Not a lot, really. You get your there's a piece of card where the cartridge sits in, and an instruction book. They're quite hefty, these instruction books. Lots and lots of pages for notes. We loved taking notes back then. Yeah, most of this video is going to be talking about all the things you could get for the N64, because the Nintendo 64 had a lot of accessories for it. Okay, so the main thing that comes with the console is, of course, a controller. The infamous N64 controller was designed so you can use it in a number of ways. Originally, Nintendo just wanted the controller to be just these side bits and the top bit. As you can probably tell, the middle section with the thumbstick was added in later. But yeah, with this controller you can play it with your hands at the side or with the hand on the thumbstick in the middle. I don't know if there's a game that uses it this way, but if you can just hold it in the middle, move around with the stick and use the button on the back to, I don't know, shoot things. I'd like to think there was a game that used it that way. The controller was actually designed in tandem with some games with Nintendo, specifically Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, which is why they complement the controller so well. Of course, there was a lot of other stuff. You may remember in the NES video, I said that they decided to call the cartridges game packs. This continued with the N64, but everything else was a something pack. So, a controller pack, which is basically a memory card that goes into your controller and allows you to save things. There was an expansion pack, which is basically a 4 megabyte RAM add-on, in case your game needed a bit more memory. That goes into the gap under the cover on the N64. There's a label that says "Do not remove." Presumably, if you get an expansion pack, you then have to remove that and put the other one in. What's next? Ah yeah, two things I actually have. The Rumble pack fits into the controller, if I can do this, like that. There we go. And that allows vibration feature for games that support it. It was originally introduced in Star Fox 64, or Lilac Wars, if you are from Europe. It did also inspire a Rumble pack for the DS, which I will talk about another day, but works in pretty much the same way. We also have the transfer pack, which is this thing here. I haven't actually used this yet, so I don't know if this one works. But as far as I know, the only main game that this works with is Pokemon Stadium. So that goes into the controller. Looks like some weird scanning device, gonna scan for aliens or something. Then you get your Pokemon game. That goes into there as well, and then what happens is you can use your Pokemon from the game in Pokemon Stadium, which was a really cool idea. As you can probably tell, the N64 was when Pokemon really came into its own. This was like the height of Pokemon's popularity. So you got your consoles and your controllers and a lot and lot of games. The ever popular Pokemon Stadium. Pokemon Snap, of course, they've just announced another one for the Switch. I haven't actually played this one yet. I should probably do that at some point. I might stream that for you guys. And then of course the infamous Hey You Pikachu, which brings me on to my next accessory. The VRU, or the voice recognition unit. That goes into your controller port, and then you have this really weird setup on your controller with a microphone. And what happens is you're supposed to be able to talk to Pikachu. You can like tell him to come over here or go play with Pokemon or do a trick or something, I don't know. All I know is the urban myth that if you say PlayStation he gets really angry at you. I don't know if that's true or not. In Japan it even got a little headset thing that you put your microphone on instead, but I can't actually figure out how it goes on your head. It's a bit small for me anyway. There was also the standard mouse controller that went with the console. I think every console seemed to have a mouse at that point. However, there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of third-party accessories for the N64. The Wide Boy, which was like a Super Game Boy in that it played Game Boy games through the console. Japan got a fishing controller, which at the time was a fairly new thing, but then afterwards fishing controllers seem to be everywhere. The Japanese really like their fishing. They also got a biosensor, which was like you put it on your ear and then the console can tell your heart rate or something. I don't know how that would be used in a game. And of course there was even a camera for it, because cameras were quite popular on consoles as well. However, most third-party accessories are, of course, controllers. Because of the unwieldy nature of the standard N64 controller, a lot of controllers, such as this one, were introduced. The Mako Pad 64, I can actually recommend this one because it's a very good layout, and it has the expansion so you can use all the accessories with it as well. One last thing to note is that the N64 had an add-on in Japan called the DD, or the disk drive. This didn't make it out in the West because it only sold about 15,000 units, which isn't a lot at all. Released in December of '99, the 64DD uses magnetic discs instead of cartridges. This is because they are cheaper and because they're easy to produce. However, the magnetic disc is a smaller capacity than a standard CD-ROM, so while it is more than a cartridge, it might not be as much as, say, a PlayStation disc. The DD was meant to be quite a big thing in Japan. There was a Mario Paint continuation called Mario Artist, which went down pretty well. There was a modem for internet connectivity, and at one point it was even to be used to distribute music, but that didn't take off at all. It's a shame it didn't do very well, but I guess that was a bit towards the end of the N64's life, so I don't know. It probably wouldn't have been worth bringing it out over here anyway at that point. That's pretty much all I have. I will just show you a quick demonstration of the console now. So here is the N64, or the Ultra 64, as it was called while it was being developed. I forgot to mention that in the video. As I did mention, here is the absolutely huge power source that it uses. Instead of having the big brick on the actual plug, they had it at the end of the cable instead. So that goes into the huge hole at the back, like that. And as also mentioned, it uses, this is the Super Nintendo cable. The exact same one you use in a Super Nintendo. That one also goes into the back on there. However, if your TV is incredibly old-fashioned, you can also have an RF modulator, so that it can use an RF cable instead. It works in much the same way as any other cartridge console does. Thing in the front, turn it on, Pikachu lights up, and we have some Pokemon on the screen, yay! There are of course different regions. This is a European Nintendo 64 and is the cartridge. Here is one from America. You may notice the notches in the bottom are different. That's so you can't actually put that one into the other one. There is no actual lockout in the console, it's all down to the cartridge instead. Europe and Japan are the same, however it's a different hertz rate, so you can't play them anyway, and America and Japan, which use the same hertz rate, have a different shaped cartridge, so that's where lockout happens there. However, of course, this did not stop third-party accessories from being made that allow you to play different region games. Here we have a Nintendo 64 passport. In the back is a European copy of Extreme G. You have to use a pretty bad game that doesn't have a save file, because that means there's no battery inside. And here is a Japanese copy of Star Fox 64. So when you turn it on, you get your standard third-party accessory cheat code thingy screen. You just have to start the game, and then it works straight away. As far as I know, all this is doing is bypassing the hertz rates of the TV. Maybe? I don't know. There must be something to do with the hertz rate, because there isn't actually any lockout in the console. So it's just playing the Japanese game through a European console, that's it. Another thing that may be of interest is, what does the inside of a cartridge look like? Here is a copy of Smash Brothers, and if I can open it up, it's actually quite boring, because the whole thing has a metal plate that's protecting it. I don't know why, probably some important reason it's doing that. I don't know if you can see, no, we can't see that, but there is a battery inside there. That is what saves the game, of course. But there you go, there's the Nintendo 64, once again, a switch for size comparison. And there we go.
There you have it, the N64, the Nintendo 64, a very popular console. It still has a very big legacy now and a huge fan base, despite the fact it didn't do as well as it could have done. But there you go, that's it for the N64. I am working on another console video as we speak, so that should be up soon-ish. I have a lot more videos lined up for you guys in the coming weeks, so if you'd like to leave a follow, I would really appreciate it. It's right there. Bark bark, I'm Shobi. Stay awesome, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.